All right, I was asked to prove that our government board tends to have a problem with following school code and the law. Here, I'll give you some proof. Um, you're going to find some humor in this, I hope. However, people are losing their houses. People are losing their jobs due to COVID-19, and we're going to have trouble with finances. If they don't get a handle on them, take responsibility by looking at the numbers, by looking at the information, by providing transparency, this district's fallen off the cliff. Financial recovery, state financial recovery, is usually the next step when you fail to manage your own finances. All right, let me turn me off for a second. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, here we go. Pennsylvania School Code, Section 718. There's a report called the Annual Financial Report. It is due not later than October 31st of a given year. October 31st. Remember that date, it's important. So what you're looking at is in June, we do a budget. Okay? We do this budget in June to give an idea of what's left. What are we looking at? You know, what's happening for the upcoming year and what happened in the last year. Then in October, we're required to fill out an actual report. And then after you do that, in January, you can now look at your numbers after the October, keyword, after the October. And then you can fill out a report in January. And then by June, you got to do your next financial report, your final report. Make sure everything's accounted for as a responsible of the board. So here's section 687. It says the board of school directors, right, shall prepare a proposed budget. Now I know you think I'm reading through, but I'm just skipping some of the other start about 30 days and here you go. You can read it yourself, right? But the board shall prepare the budget. So they should have some information. Let's see what really happens.
Provided to everyone. You answer to those taxpayers as board members, and that should have been provided to you a lot sooner. I would have hoped that my suggestion in early transparency and getting this stuff would have been done, certainly for the people, and certainly that's one reason. The other thing is that Mr. Stern, you've said that you've looked at this, you've looked at the financials in comparison. Have you shared any of that information?
It's our whole AFR you can find online, and it's all listed, broken down.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, so, not a single communication occurred between.
So here he's talking, it's all online, all public, but the reality is 17 filed on time. 18 filed a couple days late, not the end of the world, right? Probably approved at the end of the meeting and then finally filed. I get it, a couple days, not going to kill you. You get a 15-day window before they start penalizing you, right? Here goes down the path. If the fails to do it, you got till the end of December, right? Revised. School shall submit a revised annual financial statement to the Department of Revenue. So they got you some little leeways, right? No later than the 31st of December. Yet here in our district, March, 3 months after the preliminary budget information was finally provided to this district. But let's move on, right? So we're looking at the different budgets. Let's take a look at this. Section 609, budgeted funds shall not be used for other purposes or exceeded, right? So the idea is you set up a budget as a government, you give it to the administration to administer, and if they need more money, they have to come back and ask for it. And then we, as a government, go ask for it from our public, right? Or the public goes and says, hey, man, they need more money. Let's go get it, right? At which point they can maybe take it from another area, take it from another city. No matter what, you can't ask for more taxes throughout the year. You only get one shot at that, right? Single tax levy, it's another school code. So here it says the amount of funds in the annual estimate, right, levied by the school shall not be used for any other purposes or transferred, right, except by resolution of the board, 2/3 vote. So let's take a listen to this. Now this just drives you nuts, but listen to this. Oops. I gotta go back to 36 here. Close enough.
Expenditure perspective.
43.9 million against a budget number of 40.69.
Okay?
Over budget.
43.9 number. So we're over by $3 million, give or take, right? Mr. Bradley, you have approved that budget as well.
Actually,
No, don't actually.
No, actually.
I'm talking,
Oh,
sir.
so my question
I'm
is-
talking, sir. I'm talking, sir.
But you asked-
2017, 2018, what was our budgeted number, Mrs. Nicholas?
40.99 against actual expenditures of 42.39.
So there was an overrun on both of those years. Were there any overruns in the previous years that you had a chance to look at?
There were overruns in 2016-17 and 2015-16.
So he's overrunning the board of directors are overrunning the budget. They're the only ones that have the authorization to collect taxes and disperse taxes. So everything falls back on the majority of the board that elects to collect and consume these dollars. Right?
2016-17 had a budget of 39.17, at actual expenditures 41.37. 2015-16 had a budget of 38.65 against actual expenditures of 44.01.
So here's what we're talking about. Can the board adjust the budget? Sure, they're the board. As long as they have the money, they can move it and put it where they need to move it. It has to be a 2/3 vote, right, by the district. Can the administration do it? The answer is no. The administration takes orders from the board. Back to this organizational chart, right? These guys can't spend any money. Business administrators, they can't do nothing. It's the board's responsibility. The board's responsibility to do this. We, as a board, have to do it. Now let's see what happens and how they want to cast blame. This is the most arrogant thing and ignorant. Oh, gosh, you can't believe how ignorant Larry can be to be able to understand how the world works. How can he be president? And then listen to Wayne. Poor Wayne. Poor Wayne. You know, he's been on this board for probably a decade and still doesn't have a clue. I mean, he's a nice guy, horrible politician. Resign, Wayne. You're horrible. You gotta understand. You have a job to do. Here it goes.
No, you're showing me your budget versus expenditures. You're exactly right. Now, from any recollection of our previous board members, and even current, who were on the board for 2018, 2019, where our expenditures were $3 million over budget, were we ever alerted from any of the reporting that we received?
Now, here's what's kind of funny. You got to watch this. This is really good. This guy right here is the president of the board. Our business manager, solicitor, and superintendent. Now, he's asking, the board member is now asking if any of the board was ever alerted to these overruns that this business manager just described has been taking place for years. And I showed a chart over here where it's been happening for practically a decade, right, of overruns between this guy, this lady, and this guy making decisions that they don't have the right to make unless this person instructs its board to get 2/3 vote to authorize these people to go spend it, right? That's the process. That's the org chart. That's how it works. This guy right here this guy right here and this lady down here in the business administration, right? Sorry, bring that up a little bit for you. Down here under business administration, all report back to the board, and if the board doesn't do their job, they're in a world of it's going to hit the fan, right? You're going to have people like Wentz stand up in a meeting and say, kiss my ass, right? That's what he did in this meeting when they had to raise the taxes because they wanted to spend money and buy stadiums and do stuff. The reason we haven't had tax increases is because they already increased them so much. They had $16 million in the bank and practically no debt. And then under their administration, very quickly, rubber stamping, blind trust, you go from 16 million of surplus cash to near zero, right now negative, and from zero debt to $116 million in debt that our kids are going to have to pay for. It's immoral to put burdens on your children. But all right, here we go again. Sorry.
That we were running in a deficit.
I can answer that. No, and I can tell you, if you listen to him, that we raise taxes every year. This is my 13th year. The last 8 years, we raised taxes 2 years.
So according to,
He just submitted for being on the budget for 13 years, and here this Pennsylvania school code says, budget funds shall not be used for any other purpose or exceeded. Who are they blaming? Right? It's the buck stops with the board. Right? Who are these guys blaming? It's funny to watch, but it's also sad because it's costing us our homes. Right? Now, 687, once again, I know I keep repeating this, but 687, the board of each school district shall prepare the proposed budget and the amount of funds. Right? It's supposed to be accurate. Let's listen to Larry talk about the accuracy. Remember now, this is Larry the president coming up over here. Let's watch him.
I think
there have been issues
talk about the
with numbers
accuracy
being reported
of this
and
of these
how we
numbers.
have been spending money over the previous years, and that this budget number, as in the 2018-2019 budget, are actuals versus the fictitious $40 million budgets that were presented in the past, and even.
So I'm gonna repeat that because he calls the budgets fictitious. I agree, they don't do their job and they don't take a look at them. But we just saw who's responsible for preparing the budget. It's the board. If they don't do their job, if they don't take responsibility, if they fail or neglect to do their duty, this is what you get. Now, we're going to hear that one more time because it's just insanity to watch what these guys are doing. This is our problem.
Years.
So according to, this information.
Say that one more time, Mr. Wentz, please.
No,
I think for clarity, for clarity, please say that again.
I want to hear him say it again because it just sprues ignorance.
There have been issues with the numbers being reported and how we have been spending money over the previous years, and that this budget number, as in the 2018-2019 budget, are actuals versus the fictitious $40 million budgets that were presented in the past, and even to the point of presenting the fictitious $40 million budget in January of 2019.
Okay, so 2019, right? We're talking about, let me bring this up for a second. So we're talking about 2019 budget, right? And they're calling them fictitious. Here's the end of 2019. When we bring this up, it says we have $4 million in the bank, right? When we bring up the March, 3 months later, I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 3 months later in October, but when we bring up this March record, it shows that we only have $874,000. The board's responsible. Look, buck stops with the board. Where is it, Larry? How come you're not showing it to us? Let's see what these other people say.
Yes.
You're gonna think
No,
that
no, we're gonna vote on it. You sure?
A little pandemonium going on here.
You're gonna keep it at $44 million, we're gonna take it in 40. Hold on, I wanna hear that. Make sure it says it in the motion, that you're gonna pass a budget.
We're gonna pass the budget.
And right there, it says $44 million will be consumed, and only 40's coming in. I wanna hear that morally on the TV. I wanna see that on the front page news. I wanna see Larry Stern sign the budget, saying he's gonna spend $44 million, when you're only taking in 40.
Okay, that's the 15th time you might have said that
Well,
tonight.
when does it sink in, sir?
So the funny part is, if you look at these minutes and this meeting, the preliminary budget, right, 7 o'clock meeting, was given to the board at 2 p.m., right? So 2 p.m. you get this information. Previous ones, he says they're fictitious, they didn't have it. Cleaver just 20 minutes earlier or whatever in the meeting earlier said that, here he said that the AFR was on the website, but it really didn't show up until 3 months later, right? But either way, let's see if the public has anything to say about this.
So we can sit here and we can lie to each other, we can make things up,
Like you did in the past.
as you were part of that operation.
No, not at all, sir.
Yes, you were a part of that operation.
Transparency. You should tell them. What?
Now,
you're
Mr.
so-
Bradley, I'm not interacting with you.
Why not?
I'm saying
I'm
we
your
all
board member.
understand that we have an issue. We all understand that we need to work together to try to find the solutions.
The solution is for this board to do its job. But let's take a look. I want to see when he shuts up the public. Hold on a second. Now, this is legitimate. He's allowed to shut up the public. He doesn't have to. Doesn't need to. He can be very benevolent and say, look, I'm a public servant and I want to hear what you have to say. But instead, he knows he doesn't have to. And he uses that authority and power against this individual. And he's supposed to, by LASD code, our school code, our policy, seek stakeholder input. When this person had to give input, he should have listened to him. Right? He should have said, hey, yeah, I want to hear what you got to say. But instead, arrogance. Right? And he wants to stay ignorant because he doesn't understand how the code works, apparently. Unless he would have not had this problem over all these decades. We got to fix this. You got to get rid of the knuckleheads, right? And have them resign so that we, as individuals, anybody can get on this board, read the law, and do the job. This guy's responsibility is to make sure that they do that. Apparently, that's not taking place either. Let's take a look. I'm going to skip ahead to 4135, save you some time. Whole thing's online.
Pass this budget.
Yes.
You're gonna think
No,
that
no,
you're
we're gonna vote on it. You sure?
Whoa. You're actually saying you're gonna keep it at $44 million, we're gonna take it in 40. Hold on, I wanna hear that. Make sure it says it in the motion, that you're gonna pass a budget.
We're gonna pass the budget.
And right there, it says $44 million will be consumed, and only 40's coming in. I wanna hear that morally on the TV. I wanna see that on the front page news. I wanna see Larry Stern sign the budget, saying he's gonna spend $44 million, when you're only taking in 40.
Okay, that's the 15th time you might have said that
Well,
tonight.
when does it sink in, sir?
And again,
When can you see a chart? When does it sink into you?
Okay, we have a
You're
call
smart.
question, roll call vote, Mr. Black, thank you.
We not.
Is this a discussion?
Here he goes. There's a guy in the audience that says, is this a discussion? Now, earlier, if you watch the whole meeting, you got to realize that Nathan says, well, we have questions on this thing. Well, of course you have questions. It showed up at 2 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock. Nobody saw what's going in. The AFR hasn't come out yet, right? It's not going to come out for another 3 months, in March instead of January. And here they don't have the data. They're missing millions of dollars. They're over budget. And they don't even know the responsibility. But let's listen to this guy in the audience. I find it great.
Discussion or not?
No.
Apparently not.
No public comment?
well, no, this
It was an agenda item.
This is the agenda item.
Okay.
This is what it is.
Mr. Rivers?
So it's not a requirement to shut people up, shut them down, and prevent them from speaking. It just means you don't have to. The law, the goal, is to shall provide. So this board puts that as, hey, we'll get it to you at the beginning of the meeting. If you got something to say about this agenda item, do it at the beginning. But after the discussion of the board, they should open up the floor. They're not restricted from opening up the floor. Actually, LASD policy says they should seek stakeholder input once the information was presented. And the information we presented was, number one, we didn't have the AFR. Like Cleaver says, everybody had the open information. We did not. Number two, they didn't understand the school code, the responsibility of not going over the budget. Number three, they didn't understand the school code, the responsibility to make sure that they're the ones making this budget. It's obvious that they didn't make the budget. They let the administration, the ones getting the money, make the budget and spend the money, make the budget. It's our responsibility to oversee them. That's where this thing all breaks apart.
No. Mr. Richard Belts?
No.
And then here you go. They voted off. So thanks for watching.